Hey guys, welcome back to the Music Hole. My name is Cole, and today we're talking about yet another album from one of my favorite current American singer-songwriters, Mark Kozelek. This is the very first Sun Kill album, Ghosts of the Great Highway from 2003. I'm very excited to talk about it with you guys. It's one of my favorite Sun Kill Moon albums. So let's dive in to track number 1, which is called Glen Tipton.
Cassius Clay was here more than sun he listed. Some like KK down more than Glen Tipton. Some like Jim Neighbors, some Bob, even I like them all. I put my feet up on the coffee table. I stay up late watching cable. I like all movies with Clark Gable, just like my dad does. Just like my dad did when he was home. Staying up late, staying up late. Just like my dad.
So there are a few things going on this song that are kind of interesting. The first thing is he's kind of listing off, famous boxers or just famous musicians or, a bunch of people that some people hate, some people dislike, some people, they take sides, right? They're like, oh, I'm a fan of this boxer and not that boxer, right? They got to take a side. But according to Mark Kozelek, he's a fan of all of them. He's admiring their skill as an athlete, right? He's not one to take sides per se. He just admires the entire thing. And I kind of appreciate that outlook. There are people who, especially like if you're a gamer per se, they'll hate Xbox because they're PlayStation people, or they hate PlayStation because they're Xbox people, or whatever. People kind of take sides. And it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like, why can't you just like everything, right? Why can't you appreciate the good and the bad of everything? Why do you have to tribalize it? Is kind of what he's talking about. So, I can agree with that. I try to listen to as much music as I can from all genres, right? I don't think to myself, oh, rap music is stupid because it's just beats and talking over beats, right? There's no, having to learn how to play guitar over 10,000 hours or drums over 10,000 hours. It's just stupid, simple beats and talking. I don't think these things, right? I just appreciate all kinds of music. I, listen to them on their own terms. I don't try to pigeonhole myself. So that's what I take from this song, is he's talking about not pigeonholing yourself, about trying to appreciate everything in its own way. So I can get behind that. But anyway, so that's Glen Tipton. Let's move on to track 2, which is called Carry Me, Ohio.
Great dreams a million miles ago. You seem a star that I just don't see anymore. Words long gone, lost on journeys we walked on, lost her voices heard along the way.
I really like this song. I can relate to it because he's talking about all of the people that you once knew who you no longer think about, right? Maybe you were friends with people in college, or you had acquaintances that maybe you should have hung out with more, that maybe you should have given more a chance. Maybe you should have put more of an effort into being a better friend to certain people. You know, it sounds like he's thinking about his life and all the people he's interacted with and how he regrets kind of letting certain people slide past him, right? He never really gave them a fair chance, and now they're gone. They're out of his life, right? They're no longer part of his life, and he's kind of regretting it. He's like, I wonder how many of the people that I used to interact with, if I'd given them a fair chance, I wonder how many of them I would be really good friends with now, or how many of them I would be lovers with now, right? Maybe he missed out on an amazing girlfriend at one point in his life because he never quite gave it a fair chance, right? So I kind of apply this to my own life in the sense of I'm thinking of all the people, specifically like in college, for example, who I kind of took for granted. I didn't really make an effort to be good friends with them, and now they're all out of my life, right? They've all moved on. Maybe I'm Facebook friends with some of them, but basically they're out of my life, and I kind of regret not being closer to them. It's a missed opportunity, in other words. But anyway, let's move along to track number 3, which is called Salvador, Sanchez. Yeah, so Mark Kozelek has a real fascination with boxers in general, but also on this album. And he has a real admiration for their talent and, you know, just how kind of once in a lifetime, how certain people are like a once in a lifetime event. Like the guy in the song, Salvador Sanchez, who I guess was just a rising star in the boxing scene, was just a total prodigy. And he kind of burned out at 23, though. Maybe he got really injured from all of these fights that he was, you know, participating in. And he's just appreciating how certain people are just extremely good at whatever they're into, whether it's a boxer or a musician or a scientist or an author or a gamer, whatever it is. He just really appreciates people who really excel in their fields and in their hobbies, you know, because without these people, what would life be? You know, you would be missing out on so many of the wonderful things in life if you didn't have people who pursued the one thing they were really good at, right? So for example, if you were a really good guitar player, but you chose not to be a musician. You chose not to join a band because, being a musician is really hard and you pretty much are guaranteed to fail most of the time. So there are probably so many great guitar players out there and great songwriters who, don't ever give it a chance because they're afraid that they're going to be poor for the rest of their lives. They want to be able to have money and have a good job and provide for their family. So they choose not to pursue the whole music career thing, right? So I imagine on some level, he's thinking about that. He's like, I wonder how many great boxers or great musicians or great gamers or great filmmakers are out there in the world who, if they just tried it and really gave their all to it, would succeed tremendously and would inspire a new generation of filmmakers and musicians and stuff like that. So he's showing admiration for Salvador Sanchez, who clearly loved boxing and gave it his all. And because he gave it his all, people like Mark Kozelek, really appreciated the entertainment that was provided for him by Salvador. So anyway, it makes me think of all these things, appreciating the people who, even if they don't succeed, are actually pursuing something which is not guaranteed to work out. So anyway, that's Salvador Sanchez. Let's move along to track 4, which is called Last Tide.
I kept quiet so you'd think my heart was torn. I never showed you that I loved you enough. The dreams I kept, but I wouldn't dare share with you for fear of things still happening. Will you be next to me, my love, when the cold moon vanishes and the last cry has no ears for it to hear?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what every guy goes through at some point in their life, where they don't want to appear vulnerable, so they don't really open themselves up as much as they need to when it comes to being with a lover. They're in a relationship and they're scared of pushing the other person away, so they try to shield their emotions, pretend like everything's fine. They want to appear confident and in control. They want to appear like they're a go-getter and things like that. So because they're not vulnerable and because they're not willing to share their dreams and their emotions and their vulnerabilities, they risk losing their loved one, right? Because their loved one wants to know who they are. They're tired of being with someone who won't open up, who just is full of secrets. Women especially really appreciate when a man opens up their heart and opens up their mind and their feelings and lets them into their life and into their mind. So this guy is kind of in that phase where he's probably younger and he probably doesn't have the life experience to know that when it comes to being with a woman, you got to open up. You can't just pretend like nothing ever gets to you. You can't just pretend like you're an emotional brick wall. So anyway, that's Last Tide. Let's move along to track number 5, which is called Floating.
Come to me, my love, one more night. Come on, 'cause I don't wanna be without
Yeah, this is another song I can relate to as a bipolar person because the key lines on this clip are when he says, "Winter of loss, when I have changed, she is floating out too soon." So I imagine what he means by that is during the winter time, he gets really depressed, he starts to get really boring, his mind goes blank and he's not very interesting to hang out with, right? He's got low self-confidence during the winter. So his girlfriend is noticing all of this and maybe doesn't understand his predicament, right? His bipolar predicament. Or it could even just be seasonal affective disorder. So his girlfriend doesn't understand what's going on. She's not very understanding and she's kind of halfway out the door, right? She's got a foot out the door because she expected this guy to be the same person throughout the year. And on some level, I don't blame her. Mostly in my life, whenever I encounter somebody, they're the same person no matter when I talk to them, no matter whether it's the winter time or the summertime. They always act the same way. They're always making the same kind of jokes. They're always interesting, right? I kind of know the deal when I meet them. But for somebody like this guy, who is maybe bipolar or maybe just has seasonal affective disorder, they're not always going to be the same person. They're going to go through downswings and upswings. So unless somebody is aware of that from the get-go, it can be very strange to experience somebody's downswing because you're like, what happened to this guy? Like they seem totally fine all spring and summer, and now they're just a total bum. They're really boring. Like, what the heck is happening? So anyway, I appreciate this song and what he's talking about. But let's move along to track number 6, which is called Gentle Moon.
Smile down on us, showing rays when things come undone. All animals lead us to life when we can't see. Stars settle and glow for those who cannot get through. Rain falling voice sound for those of whom still are not found. Gentle moon, find us soon. Gentle moon, find us
Yeah, this is a really lovely sounding song. And it's kind of interesting because I imagine a person having a really rough time in their life. They're going through a phase or something really bad happened to them. And they're losing sight of the bigger picture, which is that they'll eventually get over it, right? Hopefully they'll learn something and improve themselves and become a better person. Or at the very least, maybe, for example, somebody broke up with them and they're having a really hard time dealing with it. And, they're so concerned with the here and now that they don't imagine a scenario like a year later where, they're finally over her and their life has improved and they're doing much better. So they look out into the cosmos, they see the sun shining, they see the gentle moon in the night lighting up the night sky. And it's helping them realize that all things are temporary, that their current predicament, is not going to last forever, that through all of the good and the bad, the sun is always going to shine. There's always going to be a new day that you can look forward to. just because you're having a really hard time today doesn't mean you're always going to have a really hard time. You know, throughout all of your good times and bad times, the sun will always shine. The stars will always be there. So, you know, don't get caught up in the here and now. Think long term, you know. Just because you feel really sad that your girlfriend broke up with you, you're not always going to feel sad. So that's kind of how I think of this song. It's a little bit poetic and hard to figure out, you could say, but it kind of makes me think of that, you know. Just remind yourself that your feelings of sadness will not last forever. So I appreciate what he's talking about. But anyway, let's move along to track 7, which is called Lily and Parrots. Yeah, I really appreciate the message of this song because he's basically, you know, reflecting on his life. He's probably late 30s, early 40s, and when you get to that age, you really start thinking about all of the good things in your life. Like, for example, his girlfriend on this song, who he really loves. And, you know, when he looks at the children at the playground, he's reminded of the fact that he's not getting any younger, that he has less time to kind of experiment, that he has less time to, you know, treat his friends in the wrong way. And what I mean by that is, when you're younger, you can get away with having kind of temporary friends who maybe you probably should have talked to more or hung out with more or things like that. You probably should have told them more often how much they mean to you, that they're good friends. But when you're younger, you kind of don't think of these things, right? Because you have time to mess up. You have time to experiment. You have time to make friends, you know, and then have that friendship kind of dissipate and then make new friends. But when you get older, those opportunities, you know, don't come as often. It's harder to make friends. It's harder to find a new lover. So you got to be appreciative of everything in your life that is a positive force, right? When you're younger, you can get away with not being as appreciative because you have more time to screw up. So that's what this song makes me think about, is the fact that he's finally at a point in his life where he's really, you know, taking the time to think about all of the positive things in his life and to truly appreciate them. So I appreciate this song because I'm at that point in my own life where I really start to value all of the good things in my life. You know, I try to tell my friends that they're good friends, that they, you know, that I'm happy that they're there for me, that I'm happy that I can talk to them about my problems. I'm happy that they can talk to me about their problems, you know, and things like that. So anyway, I like this song quite a bit. But let's talk about my last clip, which is from track number 8. It's called Duk Koo Kim.
Watching old fights out last night, Raymond, Seedy, and Duk Koo Kim. The soul was hanging on there, but the pounding it took to land. And there in the square he laid alone, without face, without crown. And the angel looked upon, but she never came down. You never know what is gonna pick you out of the air, out of come to me once more, my love.
Yeah, this is such an incredible song, sonically speaking. It's just 14 minutes of bliss, in my opinion. And it's another kind of take on the last track, where on the last track, he was really starting to appreciate all of the good things in his life because he's looking at the young kids and realizing how old he is. But now in this track, he's talking about a famous boxer who in the 80s, at the prime of his life, got into a fight, and at the end of the fight, he ended up in a coma and died, I think, a week or two later. So in other words, here's this guy who's extremely successful at what he's doing. He's probably making a ton of money being a boxer. He's very young. But even a guy like that dies, randomly. His life got cut short completely. So even if everything is going well for you, in terms of like you're very successful, that doesn't mean you're guaranteed a long and happy life, right? I mean, just think about all of the musicians, the really famous musicians, especially in the 60s and 70s, who, they made great music, but they were doing a lot of drugs, and they died, when they were like 30 or early 20s. There's just so many of them. So those are people who I think most people would agree were extremely influential, were extremely successful. They probably made a lot of money, and yet they died young, right? So life can be cruel like that. And if life can be cruel to people who are at the top of their field, then you really need to look at your life, and you really need to ask yourself, am I hanging out with good people? Do I need to drop people from my life? Am I doing what I love? Should I quit my current job and really pursue something that means a lot to me? Like for example, with my YouTube channel, I'm doing this because it means a lot to me. I have all of these albums that really hit home for me that I'm just very excited to talk about them and share them. And I hope that, you guys enjoy them as much as I do. So in my own life, I kind of had this epiphany where I asked myself, what do I really want to do with the time I have? And so my answer to that was, I want to share my knowledge of music. So that's how I can relate to this song, right? Where I don't know if I'm going to succeed at this per se, but I enjoy doing it, and it motivates me, and it makes me feel good. And hey, you know what? That's good enough for me. So anyway, I really love this song. It's 14 minutes, but I love every second of it. But yeah, so that's the album. That's Ghost of the Great Highway. It's just really excellent indie folk, indie singer-songwriter type stuff. I love Mark Kozelek's style, his singing style, and his just the way that he writes songs. The kind of like looping guitar thing that he does is really cool. He makes it work somehow. But anyway, so I hope that you thought it was interesting. I hope you like it. Let me know in the comments what you thought about it. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It would really help me out. But yeah, that is Sun Kill Moon for you. Check them out and have a good one.